It was the spring of 1860. And as the Republican convention came together in Chicago, straw polls on all the trains as they came from all over the country into Chicago, people would ask, who do you think is going to be the president? Who do you plan to vote for as a delegate? And everybody had a name in mind. Everybody knew who it was going to be. It was his 59th birthday. He had been a governor and he had been in several other roles. He had even had all of his friends invited to his private home with a cannon in the front yard loaded and aimed into the sky, ready to celebrate the next morning. But as the delegates arrived for the convention in Chicago, the printer who printed the ballots decided to stop for a beer and was delayed overnight getting there with the ballots. As the convention gathered and began their deliberations and conversations, they realized we can't even vote tonight anyway. Let's just adjourn and we'll take this up in the morning. Well, that was just enough time for a man named Greeley, who had once been a compadre of, a friend of, an ally of this man whose 59th birthday was tomorrow. But he had been a friend gone sour. A friend who didn't feel like he was given every opportunity that he wanted. He was hoping for a position in government. He was hoping for a job, a connection, an opportunity to do and to be something big. But his president, hopeful nomination friend, didn't afford him that opportunity. And what we might call sour grapes stepped in. A bad relationship stepped in. And I've said it many times before, and I will say it many times again. There is no worst enemy than a good friend gone bad. And the better that person knows you, the more they know about you, the more secrets you have revealed to them, the more dangerous a friend they can be. Well, this slighted friend named Greeley decided that he was going to get his revenge, both on this political candidate and his manager. And over the minor amount of time, less than a 24-hour window, less than a full day, from sunset to sunrise, he went busily about his work. Over the 6 years since he had been slighted by his friend, in the time that he was seething in revenge, he wrote letters, he wrote campaigns, he launched a newspaper. Yes, he did. And the old Tribune had some influence. There were people who listened to what Mr. Greeley had to say. There were people who hushed when he walked in the room for fear he might print what they had said. But they respected his knowledge and his understanding of politics. They respected his connections. And in a matter of merely 17 hours, he was able to spew enough vile, enough vitriol, enough negative word. And in a course of 24 hours, an election was cast. The vote was tallied. The announcement was made. It went out over all the wires. In fact, the one person least likely to win that nomination, the one person who even said of himself less than 24 hours before, there's no chance that I win this nomination, had left town and gone home. At the time that the announcement was made, he had gotten bored with what he was doing that morning in his law office and gone out to pitch a ball and then play some billiards and was hanging out with buddies. He thought, well, I'll walk down to the newspaper office and see if there's news from Chicago. And sure enough, the news came. He had been nominated. And in the spring of 1860, the Republican Party nominated Abraham Lincoln to be the next United States president. And he was. So what is the point of all this talk of presidential elections over 100 years ago? There is no worse enemy than a good friend gone bad. Now I want to juxtapose that with the attitudes that we see in our common society today. The ability to derail someone else's opportunity and someone else's success based on your own jealousy, based on your own failure, based on the fact that social media gives voice to people who have nothing to say. And social media gives voice even when what they do have to say is a lie. And social media gives voice to those who have stinking thinking and rotten opinions. Opinions are like socks, Everybody has one and most of them stink. But the reality that the work that you do, the things that you say, the friends that you have, can be so easily turned off, turned against you, switched in another direction by a single lie. In the year of 2016, we had a whole lot of people who utilized the power of media and social media to spread what they knew to be lies when they said them. In fact, many of them were caught later. There was a particular news reporter who lost the position that he had, but he's still influential in the media. And it was because he made a comment about a presidential candidate. And in that comment was able to derail that president's future hopes of success, that candidate. When they asked him later, are you aware now of the damage that was done to that party? And he said, yes. They said, are you also aware that the words that you said were untrue? And what he thought was an off-record, off-camera comment was recorded. But his reply was, I knew it was untrue when I said it. But he's not our president, is he? And so his end game was more important than the truth. His end game was more important than someone else's reputation. His end game of influencing the outcome of a presidential election and having his candidate win and not someone else. That was more important to him. He couldn't bear the loss and celebrate someone else's victory, so he manipulated the story until it became his own win. Now, I'm going to tell you, the power of social media is staggering. And truth and lies in social media spread at the same speed. If they're not the same speed, then lies travel faster. Because the truth is so uncommon today, it's hard to find. That's a scary reality. If you run a business, social media could be your downfall or your explosive opportunity. There are people who, with one video, the Chewbacca video is a good example. Now, I don't know Miss Payne. I understand that from people who do know her personally, that she is a great lady, that she has a great heart, that she loves people, that she serves in her church, that she serves in her community, and that people who genuinely know her love her. But she put a Chewbacca mask on and then mocked herself and had a blast with it. And her laughter was infectious. And that video went from a little bitty town in nowhere, Texas, all over the world, multiple millions. Well, now when she does a live video on Facebook, instead of a Chewbacca mask, she is sharing stories from her own heart, from her own life. But there are 2,000 or 3,000 people following her. 2,000 or 3,000 people log on to that video. They love what she has to say. They want to listen closely. The little town she lives in barely has that many people. But people from all over the world have been exposed to her personality, have been exposed to her infectious laughter, her joyous smile, her gigantic heart. And it has been an explosive opportunity for her to touch and influence lives all over the world. That's a powerful, powerful vehicle. But there have also been those who had a difference of opinion with a would-be client, and the would-be client took to their social media to destroy the business. I can think of bakers and other businesses, florists, pizza makers, restaurants, delivery services, car services, who in a matter of 1 or 2 tweets are basically out of business. There was a comment made by our current president in 2008 or 2009, during the housing crisis, when the economy looked like it was headed for a real train wreck. And his comment was something along the lines of, all of these holiday boondoggles and holiday parties are just a waste of corporate money. That money should be reinvested in the poor or should be reinvested in your employees. Stop robbing from your employees just to have a party. What he didn't realize when he made that comment, or perhaps he did, was that there's an entire industry. I was a part of it at the time. I owned a DJ business. I still own the business, but it was my primary income at the time. In 2009, when that comment was made, Christmas parties were canceled at the drop of a hat. Holiday celebrations that would have taken place over the 4th of July, company picnics that were planned for August, back to school parties that were planned, already in the budget, already expected income for those who rent venues, who make cakes, who make ice sculptures, who provide catering, waiters and waitresses working minimum wage jobs, serving these parties in giant hotels where 500 or 600 or 1,000 people would show up, are now out of work from a simple, singular comment. My friends, you have no idea how powerful your tongue is. But when your heart is wicked enough, when your heart is deceitful enough, when your heart is selfish enough, that you're willing to say what makes you feel good at anyone else's cost, let me help you understand something. They say what goes around comes around. It's true. They also say that whatever you sow, you're also going to reap. Today, your comment may make you feel vindicated that you have gotten even with that barista at Starbucks who gave you the wrong cup of coffee. You may feel so much better about yourself because you've warned the world about this kind of business and how they made you feel when you went into the business. You know what? Control your own feelings. Don't let other people control your feelings. There's a word for someone like that. It's called a wounded fool. When someone else has control of your feelings, you have no control at all. Self-control is a fruit of the Holy Spirit. Get you some. Don't let other people control your feelings. Control your feelings yourself. But when your feelings get a grip on you instead of you getting a grip on your feelings, when other people control your feelings instead of you, you may want vengeance. You may want to vindicate yourself. You may want to feel all better about yourself in that moment, not realizing the ripple effect. Sure. You may shut down that business and feel all good about yourself. And 3 days later, your best friend's brother is out of a job and takes his own life. You didn't realize that he was a supplier to that company that you so vindictively shut down. Did you win? Or his family going to be sleeping on your couch? We forget how small this world is. We forget the ripple effect of our comments and our conversations and our decisions. See, President nominee Mr. Seward in 1860 had no idea that that little nobody printer, that little guy who kept scrambling around his feet serving him, hoping that he would one day get appointed to an important position because of all the service that he had put in for this highfalutin presidential candidate. He didn't realize that little man was respected by his friends. He didn't realize that that little nobody had influence and other people listened to what he had to say. What took that candidate years to build, from the Senate to the governorship to the U.S. Senate, the opportunity Mr. Seward had in front of him, all of the years he had invested in it, all of the millions of dollars he had invested in becoming a presidential candidate, stripped away in less than a 24-hour window by one man with a seething hatred, a vile rebuke, a wicked heart, and a desire for vengeance. In less than 17 hours, he derailed the efforts, the investment, the connections, the labor, the blood, sweat, and tears of a would-be presidential candidate. Now, ironically, for the U.S., President Abraham Lincoln, after having lost just about every other political campaign he had tried to enter in his life up to that point, he had failed at just about everything. But his character remained true. His integrity remained true. His honesty remained true. And when this opportunity came, because of someone else's vengeance, he became one of the greatest presidents in U.S. history. Sure, there were people who disliked him, and there were people who disagreed with him, and there were people who smashed their hats on other people's heads over electing him. But the things that he did accomplish were significant. What if he had lived today, though? How bad would media and social media destroy a man like that over disagreements, over differences of opinion, over not waiting the moment to let something work itself out and see what the final outcome would be. There's been a whole lot in 2016 of rushing to judgment, a lot of opinions by offended feelings who have caused people to entirely change their course of direction and change their lives and change lives of people around them. Do you bridle your tongue enough to control that vengeance that seethes inside you? Are you willing to let it go? Grow up and move on to the next thing? Do you realize the ripple effect that your words and your opinions may have on somebody else when you put that 1-star Yelp review against someone's business, when you put a negative comment on their Facebook page? Someone asked me the other day, so how many friends do you have? How many people are on your list? And I had to think about that for a minute because there are so many lists. I have, 1,500 or so on Twitter. Maybe it's 1,200. I think I follow 1,700 and I have 1,200 followers, something like that. But I have about 13,000 tweets. In addition to that, though, I have 4,960-something friends on Facebook. And those are just friends, connections that are on my personal profile. Then my Facebook fan page has about 3,100. And then my other Facebook fan page, because I have 3, has 1,700. And another one has 1,600. How many friends do I have? Oh, my mailing list, it has, 1,200 or so. But how many friends do I have? That's a different question. If my life was in crisis, how many would come to my aid? When it was time to move, I had 4. Imagine that. 4,000 plus on Facebook, and 4 showed up to help us move. And many of those were the friends of my kids. There were a couple. Jim Gardner helped us move. Robert Parkerson sacrificed a day when he wasn't even feeling good and helped us move some heavy stuff up and down the stairs. It's pretty amazing when you look at all the people that you're connected with. I guess if you put them all together, another 3,000 on LinkedIn, so probably close to 10,000 people that I'm connected with on social media who I have an opportunity to influence their life, be it ever so small, and they have an opportunity to influence mine. These videos on Facebook, when they go out around the world on my fan page, sometimes they'll have, 20 or 30,000 in total reach and 2,000 or 3,000 views of 10 or 20 seconds and several hundred minutes watched over the course of a day. And 1 or 2 people will feel like it's necessary to tell me that I'm an idiot. 1 or 2 people will tell me that my God is a joke. 1 or 2 people will pipe up and say something profane, or, and I love this one, they're my favorite to ban, the ones who decide that my Facebook page, my comments area, is the place to promote their business, to sell Ray-Ban sunglasses or credit adjustments. No, thank you. I didn't give my time to build your platform. Not that I don't love you, but there's an appropriate time and place for that, and this is not it. I'm open to disagreement. I'm open to conversation. I'm open to argument even. In fact, sometimes I love it. I thrive on mental gymnastics. I have a lot of fun with brainstorming and serious conversations. I'm all game for that. But if all you have in your mind is to hurl insults because it makes you feel better, grow up. I know those big words, gigantic words. Especially for snowflakes, those are big words. Grow up. Your feelings, how you feel about something, whether you like what I said or not, it's not the most important thing in the world. In my life, this is the most important thing in the world. I just hit the microphone. That was really loud, wasn't it? This is the most important thing in the world. In my opinion, the Word of God is the most important thing in the world. What God says about a subject, that's most important to me. I'm glad to debate your opinion. I'm glad to talk about your opinion. Your opinion might even sway my opinion. I've been known to change my mind. Yes, I have. Usually because of the Word of God. But there have been times that people have convinced me that what I thought, what I believed, what I understood was wrong. And I'm a big enough boy to confess that, to admit that, and to say, I was wrong. I misunderstood that. I didn't get it. In James chapter 1, I believe it's about verse 7. I could be mistaken. I think it's on the screen for you, though. When down and outers get a break, cheer. When the arrogant rich are brought down to size, cheer. Prosperity is short-lived as a wildflower, so don't ever count on it. You know that as soon as the sun rises, pouring down its scorching heat, the flower withers, its petals wilt, and before you know it, the beautiful face is a barren stem. Well, that's a picture of the prosperous life. At the very moment everyone is looking on in admiration, it fades away to nothing. Anyone who meets a testing challenge head on and manages to stick it out is mighty fortunate. For such persons, loyally in love with God, the reward is life and more life. It's not about the 10,000 or so connections that I have between all the social media aspects. It's not the people who show up to help me move while I love them. It's not about the opinion of others, while for many years of my life, and even now I'm dealing with myself on this issue, that what others think of me changes the way that I see me. No, it's none of that. It's what God says about me. That's truth. How God feels about me. That's important. What God says to me when I lay down my head at night. How God views the work that I do. That's what matters. I appreciate your opinions. I appreciate your comments and your feedback. I appreciate your prayers and your investment in what we're doing. But ultimately, my audience is one. I do what I do because He's watching. I love knowing that sometimes when I turn this camera off, it'll say 50 people watched you live. And some of them were there for about 32 seconds. Some of them were there long enough to hear my voice and go, oh, that guy's irritating. He's annoying. Some have stayed to the end of this video and have commented and said, wow, you really make an investment in me. I do meet people from time to time who've never commented. They've never liked. As far as I know, they've never shared a single video. But I see them in public places and they say, I watch your video every day. It means a lot to me. That means a lot to me. But not as much as knowing that what I'm doing because I'm being obedient. And that there will be a day that I'll stand before my Father in judgment. And He'll look at me. And my greatest hope in all of eternity is that He will say, that is my Son, whom I love, and whom I've well pleased, good and faithful servant. And my reward will be eternity with Him. Yes, that's very selfish. It's all about Him and me and our relationship. But I don't think it gets any better than that. I can't think of a better friend to have on my side. I can't think of a friend who knows me better than my God does. He says He's known me since He knit me together in my mother's womb, before my mother met me, before my mother decided that I should have a name. God knew me. Everything there is about me, every DNA, every blueprint that would create, every attitude problem, every personality quirk, every physical feature. He knew who I would marry. He knows what day I'll die. You want an enemy like that? I mean, what do you hide from God? Nothing. There is no worse enemy in the world than a good friend gone bad. And the only thing that's faster traveling through social media and media than the truth is a lie. Celebrate with the rich and the poor. Understand that success is fleeting. Glory is for a moment, unless it's the glory of God. The wildflower, as beautiful as it may be, when the sun comes up and drains away its moisture, withers and dies and blows away in the wind. It's the one who has sacrificed obediently and surrendered everything to the Almighty who will see success in this life and the next, that you may have eternal life and abundant life. Pastor Robert Morris said it so well just recently when he said, we have to first believe that we would have a relationship with Jesus and eternal life. We have to believe Him first. But we have to continue to believe if we want to have the abundant life and live life on earth as well. We have to believe Him last. Believe Him first, believe Him last, and believe Him all through the middle. He is the King of Kings, and one day every knee will bow and every tongue confess, and it will be his opinion that matters. He is the friend you cannot live without. On Monday, we're going to start a new series right here on Tell It Like It Is TV. Monday of next week, I believe that's January the 8th. It will be a 2-week series, 10 total lessons, called the 10 Keys of Leadership Development. It is a deep conversation. There will be a few stories in that. There's going to be a lot of learning in that. You might want to take notes. We will begin on time at 6:20 every day for the next 10 days to make sure that those are there. We will probably have 30-minute sessions because they will also be produced for television broadcast. So they'll be 28 minutes and 30 seconds in length or thereabouts when we fill in commercials later. So expect a little bit longer lesson, a little bit more intense lesson, a little deeper conversation. Again, feel free to chime in and share and comment and ask questions, and I'll get to them the next day. But I want you to participate. I want this to be beneficial to you. I want this to be enlightening for you. And if it's not, if in the end it's just teaching me lessons and God's watching, I'm okay with that. I'll still do it. Stop by when you can. In the meantime, have a blessed day. And remember that there is no worse friend than a good friend gone bad. So don't make enemies of your friends. I'm J. Loren Norris, and you've been watching Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.